is mine! Hey! I'm sorry, it's really loud here. Much better. Hi, I'm Susan, and I live with my mom in a homeless shelter. Today, I literally had to fight for a loaf of bread. My mom, Kim, she is the kindest person I know. She let me have the bread. Oh, Mom. Later that night, I opened my eyes and saw a large crowd had gathered. Turns out some wealthy mother-daughter were donating food. And you know what? The wealthy woman and her daughter looked exactly like us. Almost like twins. And suddenly, the rich mother turned to us and made the most crazy offer ever.
Would you and your daughter like to swap lives with us for a week?
What?
You know, I always hoped that my daughter would get the experience of being her own person, but being wealthy has made her lazy. I want to get her away from all this for a bit.
I looked up at my mom to be sure I had heard them correctly. How could anyone ever want to give up their wealth?
You will also be paid $100,000 if you agree.
The amount was outrageous. We decided to take it. Who wouldn't? They took us to a beauty salon next, and our looks were transformed. Now I looked just like Eve, the wealthy daughter. Then we were ushered into a limo, and that was the beginning of our new lives. We reached their mansion. It was so huge. I could not believe we were going to stay there. As we walked into the house, I looked up to see someone staring at us. She looked old. It was Eve's grandmother. Eve had told me that she was going to be the hardest person to fool. Eve's room was twice the size of our shelter, and the number of dresses she had, my goodness. I was about to change into a comfortable outfit when I was told to come downstairs for a class. No one told me about any class. That was when I met Madam Christie, my tutor. Eve's tutor. She looked at me for a long time as she assessed what I wore. She finally gave me a nod. Phew, that was close. And she proceeded with my lessons. Madam Christie showed me how to walk like a lady, and then asked me to do the same. I almost broke down as she corrected my walk. Boy, was she rude. But by the end of it, I did okay. I spent the rest of my day moving from one class to another and just fell on my bed so tired. I was about to sleep when...
Dinner time! We are waiting for you, Eve!
I quickly rushed down and received a scowl from Rosalind.
A lady must never be tardy.
I looked at the wide selection of food on the table in awe and moved to sit next to my mum.
Your seat is next to me, Eve. What has come over you today?
Oops.
She must be tired.
Mom tried to cover up for me, but I was afraid as Rosalind continued to give me stares. During dinner, I tried my best to copy Rosalind. She ate in little bites, and I wondered how she ever got full. Suddenly, my mind began questioning, what is all this fuss about being ladylike? I will eat the way I want and walk the way I wish. Why do you care? Rosalind snapped her fingers at me, and my thoughts came to a stop. I looked at my mom, who had her mouth stuffed with potatoes. She looked embarrassed as she dropped her fork and slowly chewed her food. The rest of the dinner went by quietly, and when I was done with my food, I stood up to clear my plates.
What do you think you're doing?
The look Rosalind gave me, I knew I had to choose my next words carefully. I wanted to get some more, food? Then Rosalind just lost her mind.
I would not have my only granddaughter looking like a pig because she cannot control her appetite.
Her words hurt, and I watched her call on the kitchen staff to clear up. She yelled at one of them whose cutlery fell off the tray, and I felt terrible at how she treated them. I thought that could have been me, but how lucky I am to be able to come from there to here. I went back to the kitchen once I was sure Rosalind had gone to bed, and I apologized to the kitchen staff whom she had shouted at. The kitchen staff was surprised to see me apologize, and he gave me an extra piece of pie since he thought I was still hungry. The next morning, I saw Rosalind standing in front of my bed when I opened my eyes. She looked so scary as she stared down at me.
I need you to come with me.
I jumped out of my bed ready to follow her when she held me back. She looked at me weirdly before she spoke.
You need to take a shower first. I would wait here for you.
Rosalind sat gracefully on my bed, and she waited for me to shower. Once I came out of the shower, I noticed that Rosalind had picked out a dress for me.
Wear that. I bought you a new horse, and we are going horseback riding.
I stood frozen in fear as I let Rosalind's words sink in. I had never sat on a horse before, and animals generally never liked me. I got dressed and followed her to the stable.
Meet Hillian. He is going to be your horse for today.
Please tell me this is a joke. Hillian was a big black horse that looked so scary. He looked at me and I could feel my heart skip a beat.
Don't just stand there. Go ahead and meet your horse.
I counted my steps as I walked towards the horse. This wasn't going to end well for me. The horse neighed loudly as soon as I got close to it, and I backed away in fear. How was I going to sit on an animal that didn't like me? Rosalind continued to look at me suspiciously, and I knew I was seconds away from blowing my cover. I looked around me hoping for a miracle, and I spotted a basket full of apples near the stables. I picked them up and fed the horse. Once I was done feeding the horse, it became friendly. I sat on its saddle and it galloped across the field.
That's enough for today.
Back to the horses.
Wash up and meet me in my study in 2 minutes.
I wonder what she has planned for me. I felt very nervous as I stood in front of Rosalind's large desk. And, after a full minute of silence, Rosalind unzipped a bag and placed a yellow dress on her desk.
I need you to pick one for the tea party this evening.
The look on Rosalind's face made me feel like I was being tested. I remembered Eve had worn a lot of yellow accessories when we first met at the shelter.
Is that really what you want?
I studied Rosalind's facial expression and I knew I had made the right choice. Yes, it is. I didn't know what she was up to, but I knew I had to be more careful around her. I wore that dress to the tea party. Rosalind's tea party turned out to be an elaborate celebration, and I was forced to interact with a lot of wealthy, snobbish ladies who loved to gossip.
Evening, ladies. I would like to speak with Eve for a moment.
I turned around to see a very cute-looking guy behind me. He stretched out his hand to me, and I placed my hands in his.
You owe me for saving you once again.
I found myself captivated by his good looks.
Do you want to dance? I know you want some time away from them.
Donald nodded, and I knew I had to try my luck with dancing. There was no way I was going back to those rich snobs. Sure, I would love to dance. Donald led me to the dance floor and placed his hands on my waist. My face turned red at our close proximity, and I found it hard to concentrate on my steps. I accidentally stepped on Donald's feet, so I had to break away in embarrassment.
Is everything okay? You seem a little distracted.
I was saved from thinking of a response as Rosalind asked everybody to go into the ballroom. Rosalind stood in the middle of the room and rang the small bell in her hand.
Before you all leave, my granddaughter would like to perform a classical piano piece by Beethoven.
Beethoven? What exactly is going on? I looked at my mom in aghast. We were definitely screwed.
I'm sorry to steal the spotlight from Eve, but I would like to show everyone a new magic trick I just learned.
Donald curtsied in front of Rosalind, and I could tell that she was not happy about his request.
Eve has been practicing for days. She is the one you should ask.
I could always play some other time. I let out a sigh of relief as Donald stood in the middle of the room and began his magic tricks. Soon, he held everyone captive with his tricks. After that, Donald came to me. What was he about to say?
Hope you liked my magic tricks.
Yes, I did.
I wonder if Eve would have liked it too.
I stared at Donald with wide eyes. How did he know I was not Eve? I am Eve, silly. I smiled at him nervously, as I hoped I had heard him wrongly.
I have known Eve since we were kids. She is a perfect dancer, and her smile doesn't reach her eyes like yours. Your secret is safe with me. Relax.
Thank you.
Can I know your real name before I leave?
I wasn't sure if I could trust him, but he had saved me from being embarrassed, so I guess I could try. My name is Susan. Donald winked at me as he took his leave. I was called to Rosalind's study later that night. Guess it was scolding time. I noticed my mom standing beside Rosalind's desk, and she looked fidgety.
I called you both in here to read this out loud for me.
Rosalind gave my mom and me an invitation letter, and we both looked at it suspiciously.
Go on, read it.
You are cordially invited to an evening tea.
You can stop right there.
Rosalind had an evil smirk on her face as she signaled for us to drop the invitations.
Come in and take these imposters!
Suddenly, 2 security men came into the room and dragged my mom and me out. The security men threw us behind bars, and I clung to my mom in fear. I couldn't believe this was happening to us. Have we not suffered enough? Do you think she found out?
I don't know.
Rosalind looked at us in disgust as she drummed her fingers on the prison bars.
Did you think you could fool me?
Rosalind looked at me squarely.
Even Rachel could not have read those invitations without their reading glasses. I was always suspicious of you, but that just helped me prove my point.
Please, you have to let us go. This was their idea.
I have no plans of doing that until you tell me where they are.
My mom gave Rosalind the address of the homeless shelter, but Rosalind still kept us behind bars. After an hour had passed, our cell doors opened, and we were ushered out by the 2 security officers who had locked us in. Rachel and Eve ran to hug us the moment they saw us.
We are so sorry this happened to you. Rosalind has something to say to you too.
I noticed Rosalind had a meek look on her face as she approached us.
I'm sorry for all the trouble I put you through.
I was surprised to hear Rosalind apologize, and we found it easy to forgive her. We all returned to our normal but not poor lives. Oh, dear destiny. And the next day, we received a check from Rachel with the exact amount she had promised. Wow, I had almost forgot about it. Rachel even enrolled me in one of the best private schools in the city, and I was excited for my first day. Finally, we got our happy ending. As I walked through the hallway of my new school, I heard someone call my name and saw it was Donald. He hugged me and told me he had missed me. This was the start of a new friendship and our love story. Turns out, everything does work out in the end.